Guys, I'm going to tell you a little story about myself, or a little scenario about myself, what happened to me a few years ago. So I moved country 10 years ago from England to Cyprus. Okay, and in that period of time, I changed a lot, you know, and I changed as a person, I grew as a person, I expanded my horizons. The person that I was before I left England, before I moved to Cyprus, the type of person that I was like a typical lad. You know, I was very much ingrained in that lad culture. Now, for those of you who live outside the UK and you don't know what that lad culture is, you know, I was just like, you know, Jack the lad is maybe more common. You know, I was a bit more on the Chad side of things. You know, I was always going out, getting drunk, chasing girls, just getting up to no good, basically. And that was the type of person I was. I had no interest in reading books and learning about things and bettering myself, none of that. And so I had my group of friends that I would go out with and spend my time with. And when I moved country, I changed a lot. I was inspired. I met a really good girl who was really, really smart, really intelligent. And I realized early on that, you know, if I want to, you know, we can keep having fun for a while, but if I want this to go long term, I'm going to have to better myself. I'm going to have to grow here and adapt and become more competent and more knowledgeable, etc., etc. Some of you might be like, well, that's beta, you change yourself for a woman and all this. Listen, man, if you meet a good woman will make you want to be better, all right? Anyway, we're not going to get onto that. So I changed and I grew and I got better and I started reading, I started studying and philosophy and psychology and spirituality and many, many things. And I started posting stuff online and, you know, getting into debates, etc. And one of my old friends, he was a good friend of mine before I left the UK, one of my friends, he started digging at me a little bit. He'd say things like, "You've changed." That's how it started. "You've changed, LOL, ha ha ha." And eventually he would start getting more and more upset about it and more aggressive. And then eventually he got to the point where he was like, "Man, you're fake. I know who you are. I see through this. You're trying to pretend you're some fake intellectual, blah, blah, blah. You know, I know who you truly are. And you're a fake person. You're just changing. You've changed too much and all this bollocks." Okay? And this is what's going to happen, guys, when you're going to change. Especially if you're like, you know, you're with a bunch of low frequency people. Maybe your group of friends, as you're looking around at your friends, the people you hang around with. You know that saying, right? You're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And you're looking around and you're like, these guys aren't leveling up. You know, I want to get better and these guys just aren't up for that either. And when you start bettering yourself and you start changing, you start adapting, those same people, if they're not going to be going along that journey themselves, they're going to be looking at you and they're going to be resentful. They're going to be feeling, you know, left. Ultimately, it comes from a feeling of being left behind. You know, it's if you're shining a light and shining a mirror back on them and their lack of improvement and their insecurities. And so what they're going to do is they're going to want to pull you down and drag you down. And they throw insults, and the most common insult is, "You're fake." And I get that. I've had that quite a few times from that friend I mentioned and some other people. They call me fake. I know who you are, blah, blah, blah. Bear in mind, I moved country. I don't live there. It's years since I lived there. How the hell they know me? But, you know, they don't know me anymore, whatever. On the point, it's just the fact that though that type of people, they'll stay there. You know, they won't grow, or they won't grow as much as they could do. And they're looking at you from the outside. And it's a lot of resentment there. And you just have to cast that aside. Even if they're really good friends, if they're not understanding and they're trying to drag you down, then they're not the friends you need to have in your life anymore. Yeah, you should try and give them a talk and explain things. And if they're still not getting it and trying to drag you down, you need to cut those people out of your life. And it brings me to the point, the title of the video. Changing is not fakeness, guys. You should be changing. As time goes on, you should be becoming a better person. And becoming better, you should be becoming different. I'm a totally different person now from when I was when I moved to this country exactly 10 years ago. It's night and day. I don't know anyone from my circle previously, from back then before I moved, anyone who changed as much as me. And that might sound arrogant, say, "Oh, I'm better than them," and so on. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I changed and developed myself in in a variety of ways that I don't see them have done. Now they're living good lives, they're happy, great, good for you, man. I'm not looking down on that or anything at all. But when people accuse you of being fake, it's just they don't understand. They're not on that journey, yeah. And you should be changing. You should be looking at yourself, you know, a year ago, even 2 years ago, especially, and beyond that, and should be saying, yeah, I'm different then. You don't want to be looking back and being like, oh, I'm the same. You might have some similar ideas, you might hold some similar values, but around that, you should always be developing, always be molding, always be changing. You might go down one direction and explore that direction and then think, you know what, it's not working for me, let me go back again, and so on. But people see this flip-flopping as if you're like, you lack who you are, you lack integrity, you lack your own sort of sense of self. You know, I hear that a lot. People go saying, you see it a lot. Someone who's well developed, they can be a certain way with some people and they can change, and they be someone with other people. And people see that as really fake, you know. They say, oh, they're being fake. Who's the real you? You don't even know the real you. You don't have a sense of self. But that's someone who's well developed, who can, can change and adapt in different circles and circumstances and people, etc. And that's what you want to be doing. If you're not, if people aren't saying those things to you, you're probably not developing. You're probably not changing enough. So when people say something like that to you, you're fake, oh, you've changed, oh, you used to be better, blah, blah, blah. Take it as a compliment. Take it as a sign you're on the right path, you're going in the right direction.